Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a crochet tutorial for this Kindle sleeve. Obviously it doesn't have to be a Kindle sleeve, it could be an iPad sleeve, you can make a smaller one for your phone. The options are endless. It's this adorable tulip style sleeve and I have two different colour combos to show you to give you some inspiration. You can obviously go for a white background with coloured flowers, or you could choose a coloured background with white flowers. I think they are both really pretty. It's a really simple pattern with 2 setup rows and a 4 pattern repeat. So I think this is really beginner friendly. I believe as long as you can do a double crochet, you can do this. Let's get onto the tutorial. First of all, I wanted to run you through my materials and what yarn I am using. I'm using Paintbox Cotton Aran and I'm using it in the shades Light Champagne, Pale Lilac. This is Duck Egg Blue. I've lost the label, but I know that's Duck Egg Blue, and Pistachio Green. I'm going to use this as my background color. These two alternating for the flowers, and this is my stem color. I'm using a 4mm hook for this, despite the yarn requesting a 4.5. I used a 4 on this as well, and I just think it came out quite nice, and I like the tight tension. And I use stitch markers a lot in my work, so I will be using them throughout this tutorial, and I find them really helpful. It's obviously not a necessity. I find stitch markers very helpful, so I'm going to take this ball because I've already started out of it. You can make this pattern to any size, but I am going to be making it to fit my Kindle Paperwhite. To begin, you need to make a slip knot. Now I like to have quite a long tail on my slip knot. You just take it in 2 fingers, twist, pull up like so. Okay, and just insert my hook and tighten that. This pattern requires your starting chain to be a multiple of 3. You want to chain the width of your sleeve, so if you are making it for something in particular, you can hold it up against and see how long it is. My starting chain is 24 chains. So to start the first round, you want to half double crochet into the second chain from the hook, which is this one right here. So this is 1 and this is 2. 1, 2. Yarn over once, insert your hook, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. This is where the stitch markers come in handy, because I'm going to put a stitch marker into the top of that half double crochet and also into the chain where we made that first half double crochet, just so you know where you're putting your last stitch in at the end. Looks a bit funny having 2 sticking out like this, but I find it very helpful towards the end when it gets a bit hard to see where you need to be putting your hook. So you now need to continue half double crochets along your whole chain up until the last stitch, and then in that last stitch we'll put 3 in total into there. I've done a half double crochet into every chain apart from the last one because we are going to put 3. Put in an extra one in the corner, just makes them corners a little bit more rounded. As you can see, I've crammed 3 stitches into that last stitch. We are now going to want to do half double crochets into the other side of our chain. This is the first chain, and then this is our second chain, third chain, fourth chain, so on and so on. Just so you can see that clearly. First chain, we're going to want to put our next half double crochet into there. I've crocheted half doubles all the way back up that chain, and now I'm back at the last stitch. Where I put that first stitch marker right there is where I'm going to put 2 more half double crochets, which will mean we'll then have 3 in that same stitch. Take the stitch marker out. Now I put the stitch marker in there because I feel like it can be confusing whether this is 1 or 2 stitches because of that first stitch there, because you're not using the first stitch from our chain. So now I have 3 half double crochets into that first chain, and this is what you should be looking like. This is a good time to hold your work up against maybe what you are making it for. If you want to check your length, it's a good time. This is a little bit of give, but if we hold it up against it, that is pretty much perfect, and it stretches a little bit. So to finish off this round, I'm going to remove the stitch marker. We're going to slip stitch into our first half double crochet that we made. So I'm just going to insert my hook, pick up a loop, and do it really tight and just pull that through, and it closes it off. If you go around and count, you should have your starting chain times 2. So I started with 24. When I went around and counted, I have 48. Your final stitch count at this point should be a multiple of 3. It has to be a multiple of 3 for this pattern to work. To start the next round, I just chain 1. I think I am a bit unconventional with how I do startings of rounds. I'm not a massive starting chain person. I don't really like how it looks. I'm going to put a stitch marker here. That is where our final half double crochet is going to go with this round. You might think that you should be putting your next half double crochet in here. No, I'm going to put it in here. If you put it in here and finish your last one here, that will keep your stitch count the same all the way around. This extra chain one, I like it because it just brings you up to height a bit more, but it does just disappear into the rest of your work. You don't see it at the end and it doesn't count as a stitch. So I'm just going to yarn over as normal, put it in there, and do my half double crochet. Brings it up to the height, but once we have half double crochet here, you really won't see it. And I am going to mark that with a stitch marker. So we know when we've done this one where to join it, so we don't accidentally join it into our chain one. This is a nice simple round. We're just going to put one half double crochet into every single one until we get to our stitch marker here. I wanted to highlight that as I've been working my way around, you'll start to see that corner has formed. You want to be working the outside of the sleeve facing you. So if I fold it, how it's going to go, you want it to face you like that. So I'm now working along the other side and the corner is here. Okay, so as we can see, I'm at this point and it looks a little bit complicated with all the stitch markers. I'm just going to take this first stitch marker out and show you. Just want to do your last half double crochet into there, and I'm going to remove this stitch marker. So instead of doing a slip stitch, because this is our last round of our base colour, I'm going to do an invisible join because I think it looks a lot nicer and I think you can see the knot otherwise, and I don't like how that looks. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Cut off a decent tail of yarn, and I want you just to take your thing and pull it all the way through so it will look like this. Put it into your needle. So this is our stitch that had the stitch marker in it. We want to go to the one in front of it and put our needle through it. And you pull it quite tight and it will go over the top of that first stitch, the one that had the stitch marker in. We'll go back to our other stitch, our last stitch, the one where we've got the yarn from, and go inside. If you pull this tight, voila, it creates an invisible join. It just makes it look like a V on top of your other V. Now, to make sure this is really secure, you do have to weave this in quite well. Something like this is very easy to weave in. I'll just go back and forth here and that will be very secure. That's the invisible join. I love how neat it is. So I'm just going to weave this in and we'll go to our next colour. Okay, so I'm about to move on to the stem. That is where we are so far. We've done the first 2 rows here. For this tutorial, I am going to show you how to do a standing double crochet, just because I think it looks nicer. What you do is you take your yarn, make your slip knot as normal and put that on your hook. Okay, so you've got your slip knot and then you wrap your yarn over once. You kind of want to keep your finger on it here to keep the loop on it in place. I'm just going to pick a random point on here to do this. I kind of mostly start in my corners because I think starting and ending is the unneatest points, and if it can be in the corners, that's the best. But yeah, insert your hook and pull up a loop. And now you have 3 loops on your hook. So pull your yarn and loop over and pull your yarn through again. And that is a standing double crochet. So what we're going to do for the stems is what's called a V-stitch. So how a V-stitch works is you will double crochet into a stitch, chain 1, and double crochet into the same stitch. You will repeat that, but skipping 2 stitches. I'll show you. So kind of ignore this for the repeating pattern because we're going to do 1 in here to end and chain and connect. So I'm going to yarn over and count 1, 2, and put it into the 3rd one because we're skipping 2 stitches. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, and then chain 1 and do a double crochet into the same stitch. And that makes your V. Don't need to chain or anything, you just repeat that. So skip 2, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now we chain 1 and double crochet into the same stitch. And voila, 2 V stitches. I feel like this works up really quickly and it takes up a lot of space, so it's nice. So just repeat that all the way round until we get back to the beginning. Okay, so as you can see, I've worked my way around and I have done my V stitches and I've got to the last one. So I haven't completed it yet because I wanted to show you what to do. So we're going to finish this V stitch because it is half done. Do my double crochet into that stitch with it, chain one, and I'm going to do an invisible join again because we've already got a little knot here and it won't be very noticeable because we will crochet over it for the clusters. It still is the neatest method. So I'm just going to cut off my yarn, pull it through, and the same as we did before, put it on my needle. Now that's the stitch we want to make the V over the top of, so we go to the one in front and put our yarn back through our other stitch. And you just might need to do some tightening and adjusting to make it look correct, but there we go. I think that looks pretty good, and we're gonna do our cluster over here anyway. I'm actually not gonna weave these ends in yet because I think it is easiest to weave them in once you have done the clusters. Actually, because they are right next to each other, tied a little knot so they're secure and nothing's going to happen while I'm doing the clusters, and you can barely notice it. So we're just gonna have to leave them ends like that for now. As I said, I'm gonna alternate between these two colors for my petals. As you can see in my test swatch, I did it in white and I do really like how that looks. I think it looks so nice, but by alternate, I'm not gonna do 1, 1, 1. That's way too much work. I'm gonna swap between the rows. I think I'm gonna do a purple one to start with. And we are also gonna do somewhat of a standing double crochet, but what goes in here is double crochet clusters, which is what makes this stitch. These are cluster stitches with 5 double crochets. I wanted to use this as a way to explain as well why I like the standing double crochet, especially for this. I want to see if you can point out to me which one here used a starting chain rather than a standing double crochet. This one here. And I think it really stands out to me that that is not the same as the others. Whereas on the next round, this one is where I started and I used a standing double crochet and I don't think you can notice at all. Whereas this one, I think you can. You can see that that is separate. So, you want to do your slip knot as normal, put it on your hook. Now this will be easier for you if you already know how to do a cluster stitch, and I will explain it without this standing stuff. It's not too difficult at all. So as we did before, yarn over, put your finger on it, and you want to start inside one of the V's. So just put your hook into the V and pull up another loop and pull through 2 loops and stop. We're doing a normal standing double crochet, we yarn over and go through the next 2. But because we're doing a cluster, we are going to do that 5 times. So we've done 1, and we're going to yarn over, pull up a loop and pull through 2 loops. This now leaves us with 3 loops on our hook. We're going to do that again. Leaves us with 4 loops. Do it again. Leaves us with 5 loops. And do it a final time. And we've now got 6 loops. As you can see here, there are 5 of these little half double crochets almost. And that is then when we yarn over and pull through all of them. And that makes your cluster. And then I just do a chain over the top, which I try to make somewhat loose so this isn't too tight. I'll show you a cluster again though without starting on it because it's a little bit more simple. We're not going to do any more chains. I just leave it like that. I find it is fine. It's not too tight. So yarn over into that V, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops. Yarn over, pull up another loop, pull through 2 loops. And you do that 5 times in total for this project. You can do cluster stitches with any amount of double crochets, but I like 5 for this. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops on our hook and 5 of these little half double crochets, we yarn over and pull through all the loops. Now it's kind of important, I think, when doing these to not have too tight of a tension because it makes that pulling through a little bit difficult, and you can catch it, especially on cotton yarn. And then I'm just gonna yarn over it again and chain. And now I'm just going to continue this all the way around until I get to the end, and I'll check in with how we join up. Here we are. I have done the clusters all the way around. I am now going to do another invisible join. I'm just going to cut the yarn and pull it through, thread it into my needle, and instead of going into that first loop, we'll go into the one in front, back through our last loop. And there we go, a great invisible join. You can't see it. I haven't threaded them yet because it's a lot easier to thread into the row above, especially because the knot's at the top. But I did thread the green end in. So we're going to move back onto our background colour. Now I'm going to attach it into a corner, as I said, because I just think it's a lot neater that way. And this is a little bit different to how we've been doing it. I just normally put my hook in and pull it through, wrap it around, just because it secures it a little bit. Chain one to attach it. Pull that end and we're attached. So as you can see, I've done it in between two of the clusters in one of them gaps. I'm going to just chain one. Doesn't count as a stitch. Put it quite tight so it's small and it will just blend in, especially on the side. You won't see it. And now we're going to do a half double crochet. So yarn over, pull through all three loops. And now get the stitch markers back out. I'm going to mark that stitch so we remember. I'm going to do a half double crochet into that stitch there, the one above the cluster. So I have only done 2 stitches here. I am going to come back round and join. For our next space, I'm going to do 2 in the gap and 1 in that stitch. And that is what it will look like. So you kind of have 3 together. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around. And that is how it's looking. I think it looks really neat and it keeps these nice and isolated. I'm going to continue that and I'll come back at the end. Okay, so I've worked my whole way around and I'm back at the beginning. I just wanted to show you what I've done. I've done a half double crochet pretty much on top of that chain one we did at the start. It kind of covers it up. You can't see it and it means we have no skinny, holy starter chain that I don't like. I feel like this whole video is me just being a hater of starter chains. I think on a project like this that's small as well, you would see it. Because we are doing another round, I'm not going to do an invisible join. I'm just going to slip stitch into our marked stitch. We're basically going to do what we did in that first round. So chain one, and I'm going to mark where we're going to put our final stitch in there. And I'm going to do a half double crochet into this stitch here, the one that's at the end of the 3. And take a stitch marker and put it into the top of that. So the way you look at it as well is we know we joined into this middle one, so we know that that is the one we want to have our last stitch on if we're keeping it even amount, because we've done it into the first one here. So like you can see, 1, 2, 3. It's that one that's above it. So that's why it's marked. And pretty simple step here. We're just going to half a double crochet into every stitch all the way around. Okay, so I have finished that round. I've done my half double crochets all the way around and we are at the final part. I haven't done the half double crochet yet into the marked stitch. So I'm going to take that out and do that. And because this is the last round before we move to a different colour, I'm going to do an invisible join. Cut yarn, pull it through. Needle. This might even be helpful that you can see the stitch that I've marked and that I'm going into the one in front of it. I'm going to take it out though because it's annoying to work with it in front. And go back in the middle through our old stitch. I always do a little bit of fiddling to make sure that the yarn is on top. And there we go, beautiful invisible join. And as you can see here, you can see ever so slight that chain one in the middle, but it's invisible at this point. You can't point that out. And I'd rather a little bit more of a stitch there rather than a hole, which you can sometimes have with the chains. Thread this through and I'll be right back. I thread that end in and I just wanted to show you how it looked on the Kindle and how well it fit. So if you do have a Paperwhite and you're working with a similar weight yarn or even using the same yarn, that was a really good size that I'm working with. And yeah, it's like snug, but still skits on easy. So that is essentially the pattern. To keep going, you will need to repeat from round 3 to round 6. I will bookmark these so you can easily navigate between them if you want to keep watching the video to refresh the different rounds and how you do them. You just need to repeat these 4 rounds over and over to get the height that you desire. And I'm going to do exactly that so I can show you my final product and I'll come back to you. Okay, and here is my finished product. I absolutely love how this looks. I love the colours. I think it is beautiful. As you can see, I ended up doing another round of half double crochet because I just needed a tiny bit more height, not enough to do a whole repeat again. So if I was to do this again in the future, I would probably do another round of half double crochet at the bottom. So I had 3 and 3 to make it match because I think one more round would be okay at the top. I really love this. I think it's so cute and very customizable because I would also really like it if it was in this color palette as well. There's obviously many different ways you could do this, in the sense this could be single crochet, double crochet. You could do 1 round of single crochet and do way more flowers. It's really up to you, but I like how this looks. Yeah, I hope this tutorial was helpful. If you do make this, let me know. I'd love to know what you've made it for and what colors you used. Also, this was my first tutorial I filmed for crochet, so if you have any feedback for me, please let me know. I'd love to improve and do more of these, and if you have any ideas for future tutorials, also let me know. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe and like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.